Not Monday today. This
No,
is
it's
kind of
not.
different for us.
Oh,
It's Wednesday.
yes it is. Because it's the solstice.
It is.
Yes.
So, everyone,
Happy
our
solstice.
guest today is
Wait,
Candace.
wait.
Oh,
We gotta
sorry.
pause this.
Sorry.
We gotta do like a little. We gotta get centered before we start.
You're right. Okay.
Can we pause it?
No, we're
No,
gonna
no.
do it on camera.
We're gonna do
Okay,
it.
all right, all
Okay.
right. Lead us. Just a moment to ground. You know, you've been working on that.
I have. Oh, good.
A little skittery.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Squirrely.
I've felt that all day. Just a little twinge of like everything's not okay and it's on fire. But it's not.
Just a little twinge of everything's burning to
Just
the
a
ground.
little twinge of everything's going on today.
Yeah, as we speak. But I feel good about it.
But that's what the summer solstice is all about, right?
Really?
Oh yeah.
I can't wait. So I can't wait to learn about all this because I have no idea. I learned about the winter solstice. We went to that ceremony, but
Yeah, look at
not.
that, guys.
That's true. We were all at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hi guys.
Hi,
Welcome to
everybody.
Through the Pink Door. Justice, April. Candace here with Hold Ceremony is going to talk to us a little bit about the summer solstice and what ceremony means and what you can do at your house if maybe you want to hold a ceremony for summer solstice.
Heck yeah.
So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, what's Hold Ceremony.
I'm Candace Dalmange-Rouge. I'm the founder of Ceremony. I fell in love with the art of ceremony when I went through a miscarriage back in 2019. And I didn't know how to process that. I was feeling a lot of grief and overwhelm and like, oops, I'm like,
April does it the entire thing. Don't worry.
just lost, you know, and heavy. And I was like, what the hell do I do here? And I didn't know about the well or April, and I didn't know what to
wean all by
do.
yourself.
Totally. So I like scored the internet, couldn't find anything. And I was like, I just need to basically hold a funeral. But I mean, it was a ceremony, you know, and created what I thought I didn't know what to put in that, but just created what felt right. My husband and I held that, and it was transformative, both immediately and over time. But
What did you do?
I set up an altar at our fireplace, and I put the things that we had gotten for the baby, ultrasounds, those kind of things, and just created a little altar, put some flowers there. And that was the start of it. That was like a day or two before the ceremony. I got one of those sky lanterns. So I knew I wanted to release that we would release the baby and be like, thank you for being with us. And you don't have to stay with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was a knowing that I just didn't want it to linger, my grief,
Yes.
and then affect future children. Or it was like, I need to just pause, really honor this before I can move forward. And my husband was like, yeah, I'll do that with you, you know?
That's huge. I feel like, sorry to interject, but I feel like there's a lot of people in the world who feel bad by releasing, from what I hear, releasing that grief. They're like, I don't want to, not think about my baby. Like, there's so my
Or
baby.
forget it.
Like, or forget them. Like, I feel bad doing that. So you're saying it really helped you to.
Yeah. And so I found some readings. I did a lot of John O'Donohue for the readings. And then we both spoke to the baby, like what we wanted to say to the baby, what we wanted to say to each other. And then we wrote some stuff, I think, on the sky lantern. We went outside and kind of held each other and watched it float away. And it just was like, it just felt right. I don't know. And it's not that I don't honor that,
Yeah.
but I didn't want it to get stuck to me either. You know,
Yeah.
just release it.
Yeah. Huge misunderstanding, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
About carrying something that's come and gone past its staying time,
Yeah.
right? That somehow that honors it But what you
But it's
did was
just-
honor it in a really lovely and appropriate way so that it can find its place in your current reality,
Yeah.
which is just a little place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd start a business over it. A few months later, I found out I was pregnant with twins, and I was like, we're just going to wait a while and not try again. And then, boom, I got pregnant with twins, which is a huge blessing and also very overwhelming. And then it was during the pandemic that I was on this winter hike, and the idea of ceremony just landed on a brief 20-minute hike out in the middle of a January bitter cold day when I had like a half an hour break to myself. And it was like, how do you bring this practice? Because I had started then at that time getting into the seasons. This is when I was starting to get into wheel of the year and the turn of solstice and equinoxes, and how does that reflect our inner world? And so that had just started to become part of my
Or how
practice.
does our inner world reflect that?
But
Yeah,
back and
yeah.
forth. And so it just landed, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to start playing with this. And so I decided I would start with the change in seasons and create a box for each seasonal change, and that would be kind of like a self-care kit. And so that's how it started. It's evolved into boxes for other types of life events. So I mean, people here might be familiar with the pregnancy and infant loss box. April was humongous and helping bring that to life with your wisdom and guidance in the creation, with testing it out. And then I started to hold community gatherings, which were just ceremonies for people on various topics. And you guys came to one of my winter solstice gatherings.
That was awesome.
And now I'm at a pause because we're getting ready for this move to France. And I realized that the part of my business that is time to come to a close is the boxes. It was a wonderful learning. I always wanted to have a product business, and I learned how to do that. But it's not where I'm meant to be long term. So I don't really know where I'm going, and that feels okay. But I've just become certified as a life cycle celebrant because I know what I want to stay is the art of ceremony, and how do I increase my skills in this to bring ceremony to people through the healings and transitions that we go through the big events, through the small events, not just for weddings and funerals. Those are great, but like there's a lot of stuff
that we don't even talk about. We talk about it all the time. Like there's so many moments in life that you feel like you're going through it alone. Like you feel like you're the only person on earth who goes through this, only to find out you're not.
Or you find out that you're going through this huge thing in a really flat way, just surviving it.
Oh,
And that for me is what ceremony is helpful with, is calling out the meaning in it and making it beautiful. Even the hard things can be really beautiful. It's like, you don't want to eat truffles all day every day. They're just too rich. But you want a little bit. You want, you want a little bit of sorrow or loss. So it makes everything else that much sweeter.
Yeah, well said.
But if you honor it the way that you do, the way that I do, the way you do, like if you can find ways to make it beautiful, I think it finds its place better.
And realize that, like you were saying, like that's something you started, but it was not meant for you to be there for forever. You know, you're pivoting in your business and realizing that phase, if you will, has passed. And being okay with that, I feel like is something I'm working on too. But we flow. Yes.
Sometimes things aren't flowing, you know, and they're there for a reason, to get us moving in a direction, or lots of learning can come from it, but it might not be where we're meant to stay. And I think a lot of us hold on tight because we're like, oh, but that's what my plan was.
That's what I said.
This is what I thought was going to happen. Like, I'm not prepared for anything else. Everything else is scary.
Instead of being like, oh, I'm just going to let go and see what happens. And actually,
that's always the best.
I want to be delighted. You know what I mean? I just want to be surprised and delighted.
Because then you find out something that you're like, this would have never happened if I didn't let go. This opportunity would have never been able to present itself if I didn't let go of that one. So it's actually really good. Scary as hell.
Very
but man,
odd.
It is good.
It's scary and
Just
odd.
like childbirth.
Exactly. I feel very similar to that.
Everything is just like childbirth.
That's really funny that you
it's
say that.
True. That free falling, I don't want to let go of control. The illusion of control.
The thing that's happening to me right now before this move, the same things are happening before I have the girls, which is waking up at 4 a.m. every day. Or, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, yes, this is familiar.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
body trying to prepare and just like,
So, what exactly is a summer solstice ceremony? So that's kind of what we're
Yeah.
celebrating today, the summer
Yeah.
solstice. What does that look like? What is it?
I mean, it could be anything. It could be as simple as like you wake up, obviously we're midday, but it could be starting your day with a cup of coffee and gazing out at the sun rising and be like, I just want to take a moment and recognize the sun at its peak, at its zenith throughout the year, the longest day of the year, the day of longest light. We've been waiting for this for how long? And what does that say about my inner terrain of the light within me being at a peak right now? And just noticing a connection there for for 30 seconds over a cup of coffee and being like, that's a nice way to start my day, and I'm moving on and doing whatever. To, holding a full-fledged ceremony that might be having a bonfire or meditating on the sun at this time or trying to set some intentions of what do I want to seed for this next year until summer next year, or this is an important time for merging the masculine and the feminine within ourselves, that we both hold masculine and feminine. So maybe it's a time of looking at, where am I a little out of balance? Is one of these things not really online as much as the other, and what could I do to bring that in more?
So that is something associated with the summer solstice. So that feeling and that working on that energy.
Yes.
Okay.
So this, throughout the Wheel of the Year, which is celebrated in pagan or Celtic traditions, there's 4 main
and
holidays.
Religious ones too. They just call it different things.
Good point. A solid point.
Yeah.
In wintertime, that's the time of the pure feminine, right? It's darkness. It's the moon is in the dark side. It's more about the womb, what's being seeded to come up. It's the unknown. It's the spark of light, the promise of light that will return in summer. At this point, it is more masculine. It's a more masculine time of like, this is the sun, which is represented by the masculine. And it's at its peak. Everything in nature is at its peak. We're in this period of more energy, right? Like everything's go, go, go.
Yes, you're outside more, right?
Everything's right out in front and fertile.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And can we have the invitation to, yes, use the masculine power, which is force and productivity, but what about feminine power as well, which is that innate creativity or intuition or flow.
Ooh,
I mean, there's a lot of
good.
power over there. So much, I think, the feminine is perceived to be less active, like receptive, just receiving, where it's like, yes, okay, but it's also active in just a different sense. It's activating different parts of our
It's slightly active. It literally creates whole humans
yeah.
and
Yes.
feeds them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And nurtures.
It's always active.
Yeah.
But I could see how we forget, because like you said, we're thinking it's summertime, go, 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 all the sports, all the kids are out of school, it's all about, you said, productivity and forceful, and this is what we do. So it's a lot easier to forget to sit down and breathe. In the wintertime, I find myself, it's a lot easier to take my 2 minutes because I'm already inside, right?
Yeah.
And outside, I'm like, oh my gosh, my day went by and I didn't sit down for 2 minutes and just talk good to myself or think about life being great or whatever it may be. So that's very understandable.
Or recognizing where you've come, or like being grateful for your light within and your inner journey. I think so much we're always like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Instead of being like, wow, damn girl, where have you been?
What's going on? Yeah.
Look at yourself.
Thank you. Proud of you.
Yes.
Good job.
You do that well.
I do. That's my 2 minutes usually. I'm just like talking out loud with a cup of coffee in the living room on the couch.
Tell us what you say. I want to hear.
I'm just like, you are awesome. So I'm like, man, so we have this going on and this going on, and look at you. Like, you didn't even realize that you have so much going on. Like, you are doing so good. I can't even.
I love I can totally.
And so, like, you hear me say this, my dogs are like,
like, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah. I'm like, me. I've been telling them the past week, I'm like, your mom's turning 29. And so Moscow's like, oh, you are? I'm like, yes, I am. 29. You know the birthday party I threw for you? I'm going to throw one for me. Yes.
I love it. I just look in the mirror and I'm like, you're a badass bitch.
Yeah. That's all you need right there. It's better than a cup of coffee.
Not every day, though. I can amp that up.
Every day.
All right, what do you
Okay.
say to yourself?
I just talk sweet to myself.
Oh, I like that.
You're soft. You don't ever get like bold with it, you know?
Not so much.
It's never like.
No, you're making me realize I need to say I'm a badass. But
You are.
it just doesn't sound right coming out of my mouth.
I
Because
liked
you sound
it.
sweet and soft. It sounded so soft.
I don't know. If I get the
Flowers
right
flowing.
music on, then I do.
When's your birthday? What sign are you?
February 27th.
Okay, so you're Aquarius.
Pisces.
Well, that makes total
Deep in
sense then.
Pisces, yeah.
You are a Gemini.
I'm a Cancer.
Cancer.
Gemini ends yesterday. Today. Yeah.
Well, as long
Okay.
as y'all are going to talk about this, we could talk about how that impacts solstice too, because the solstice
I would love to
doesn't
talk
always
about that.
happen the same way, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What
I
do you
don't know a ton about it, but it's a fun thing to dive into. So, okay, so maybe that's a good thing to do. We can talk about what the elements are of a ceremony, typical elements or elements from different cultures,
Mm-hmm.
so that people can build their own.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's lovely to get a box,
Mhm.
for sure. But you don't have to have a box. You could just build it from scratch.
Mhm.
So, well, like think about a church service. You've got the censer in the Catholic Church, which cleanses the space. Like people don't think about how much ceremony actually happens in our lives all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Think about the special outfits that
Yeah,
like set
yeah.
the tone. Different outfits are different colored stoles for different times of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Different banners in certain churches that
Yep.
signify the time of the year. Flowers on the altar to
Yeah.
honor dead people, or
Also for different times of year.
weddings, or the
Yeah.
time of the year. Yeah, so all of those pieces and parts. So an altar is pretty common. I
For
can't
sure.
think of a culture that doesn't in some way make a focal point.
Mm-hmm.
Even if
And
you don't
that's what
call
an
it
altar is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even if you don't consider it an altar, it's like a space where you're laying things that are important to
Everybody
you, right?
does it. My sister-in-law and I actually wanted to write a book about personal altars.
Mhm.
We're going to call it accidental altars and take photographs of people's accidental altars.
Mhm.
People do it. It's just in our
Yeah,
nature.
yeah.
You'll walk into someone's space or get in their car or something, and you'll see like this little cluster of shells and like a feather they picked up somewhere, or like a note that their granddaughter wrote for them. Or we do it without even realizing we're doing it.
And somehow it feels like when I first started to engage with altars, I'd be like, ooh, why does this feel weird? Because I think there's a stigma around it that you're like a witch or something, which, whatever, you
I'm
know.
sure you get that stigma a
The
lot.
depth of the stigma around that word is really irritating to me.
What, witch?
Oh.
I'm sure you get that a lot too.
When my other sister-in-law lives in Salem, Massachusetts.
Ah,
So we're through there all the
I
time.
would too.
But there's a witch museum that's actually run by modern day witches.
I love
So that's
that.
from the witch's perspective, this witch museum.
Okay.
So we're going through it, and they're showing all the different things that they used to do, right? Like, so they would say, if you're a witch, we're going to try you, and your trial will be throwing you in the river. And if you sink and drown, then you were innocent. But if you float, you're a witch, and you'll be put to death.
What
It's
in
a
the hell?
lose-lose
Does that even make any
situation.
sense? So you have to die to prove that you
That
are.
you're innocent. And the same
No.
with burning people at the stake. If your body didn't burn, then you were innocent. But if you burnt to death, then it was God's
How
way
long
of...
was that logical? Because, like, I'm sure
Oh,
everybody
it was hundreds of
burned
years.
every.
It's
Hundreds
still,
of
it's
years.
still going on.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, you need one body to prove you wrong.
It's still going on. More blatantly in some countries, but yeah, everywhere. So, yeah. We walked through this museum and both my girls were like, you would have been burned at the stake, right? Pretty clear on that.
Yeah.
But really the things that people notice about me, and I'm sure about you, and I don't know about you, maybe more and more you.
More and more you. More and more you. More and more.
What are the things that people notice that make them think witch if they're bent that way, or scared, or full of judgment,
Unknown.
or I think it's the opposite. I think it's knowing.
Really?
That there is a knowing, that the
there is
person has a knowing.
That there's something that tastes like somehow you know something that you shouldn't know. Or
It makes me want to know even more.
women who know a lot about plants and flowers and herbs were always called witches. Our Tori would be so called a witch. That's why I don't ever call her that. I call her a flower fairy or a garden fairy, because it just softens it. You know?
Yeah.
And
You know?
that's what Yeah, this
And
is
women
just,
who were traditionally midwives, women who helped women in
sure.
those really dark
Yes.
moments.
They were
Yes.
called witches as
They were
well.
called witches as well. It became a way of otherizing women who cared for people
And had
without
knowledge.
sanction of masculine
Yes.
input.
What
Yeah.
does that say about our society?
It says that we constantly, as women, give our power over to men.
Like, if I was going to call somebody a witch, I would call a doctor a witch, right? Because, like, they're the all-knowing, like, not the person who's, like, genuinely saying, like, here's what's going on with your body. Like, I'm not saying that doctors don't have knowledge, but I'm just saying, like, if it's about having knowledge that you don't have, then everybody would be a witch.
I think it's mainly about women, though, you know. It's
It's about
directed
power.
toward women. You know what I mean?
Yeah? Well, yeah, I could see why, because that sounds ridiculous.
But it's like age old. I mean, it's so
I can't believe it's still going
long.
on today.
It's
Well, I could
before
tell that
witches
I-
were known as witches. You
There
know,
are
like this
people
is.
that won't come here because their church tells them that things that happen here are evil or witchy.
I definitely got that with my boxes. You know, I would do different markets and be at different events, and it was well received by many. But there'd be a few people that'd be like, "Well, my faith doesn't really allow me to do this, and this is uncomfortable for me." And some people be soft like that, where you're like, "That's okay." Like you,
Yeah,
it has
understandable, yeah.
nothing really to do with religion at all,
No.
actually. So you could be any. What
That was my first question I asked you too when I come to the ceremony was,
Is
you
this
know,
going to be religious?
is this going to be religious? I just like that's the first thing I thought of.
But there's two people. There's people that are don't want it to be religious, which was like you. You're
Yeah.
like, if this is religious, I'm
I'm
out.
out.
Yeah, I was like,
And there's other people that are like, if this is not religious, I'm out. You know what I mean? If this is witchy or
Yeah.
more pagan or
but you were like, it
secular.
can be whatever you want it to be.
But
it
that's
can
not
be
enough for some
to
people. They
God.
need
It
to
can
clearly know.
Yeah. And I think we just have to respect people for where they are.
For sure,
You
for
know,
sure.
what's been important to me is in my ceremonies, whether they're for a specific person or for groups or in a box, is could this be received by anyone, regardless of your background, your
Yes.
gender, your
What you
faith, your
believe.
beliefs,
Yes,
whatever
yes.
your age, and have it to be as not neutral but universal. Like this is like a human thing.
Yes.
And that's what ceremony is to me because you described it so well. People make altars just naturally, even if we're uncomfortable with the world. It's a human nature to do this, even if we don't recognize it as that all the time. In some
Humans
cultures,
also do counted prayers without meaning to.
counted prayers.
Oh yeah, we would put pebbles in our pockets and drop them as we walk and say little offerings, little things. You know, it's just we're meaning making machines.
Meaning making,
Meaning
and that's
making machine.
I did
That's
not
what-
coin that. That was Viktor Frankl.
That's good though.
Frankl said humans are meaning making machines. We will always look for a way to make our experiences more meaningful.
Yes.
Which is exactly what ceremony
Yes.
does. It puts a pin in a space and says, let's take a minute to honor what's happening right here. How does that impact our past? How does that impact our future? How do we feel right now? How's this going to shift how we feel right now?
Yeah, that's exactly what
Right?
it is. Totally.
It's both a dropping into the depth of the feeling as well as releasing it so you don't have to stay stuck in it.
I just finished up becoming certified as a life cycle celebrant, and I specialize in healings and transitions. And so we focused on job loss, using ritual and ceremony for job loss or job change, for natural disasters, for tragic events that happen at a national or communal level, for different types of loss, for illness and disease, for transitioning.
And
Into
that's huge. Transitioning. I feel like we do not give that the thoughts and the power that it truly deserves. Because I feel like as many times as I've transitioned in just the 6 months of this year, if I didn't take the time to acknowledge that I was going through something, it builds and gets overwhelming. And next thing I know, I'm having panic attacks because like I don't even know what's wrong. And I didn't take the time to acknowledge that I'm not doing this anymore, or I have a lot on my plate, or we moved into a house, or
It'll trip you up.
Yes, yes. I realize that those, and it happens so often that maybe that's why we don't think to, we don't think to give it, say it out loud and give it the power because there's so many transitions. But man, that for me, anyways, has just acknowledging those transitions has helped me be a better person daily. Wake up and feel happier and less like gloomy and stressed out.
Yeah.
You know, too much stuff on my plate.
So I think that's what we forget. I was
Yeah.
referring to transitions if you're transitioning from a man or,
I'm
as
sorry.
a gender
Yeah.
transition.
Yes.
But that's exactly right too. I mean, yes, we can use it for these big things, but then the power, and that I think would be more of a ceremony
Yeah.
versus a ritual. A ritual could be these things that you do for the in-betweens that are less big, less grand.
You can take things from these big ceremonies and incorporate them into your little, just like,
Yeah.
but even if it's your 2 minutes,
The
taking your 2
elements
minutes.
are all the same. I mean, I'm thinking about you moving, and you're doing all of the steps of ceremony as you prepare, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to be living out of a suitcase for a while, but you're going to
2
have,
months.
that'll be your altar.
Yeah.
All of your most important things will be right there,
Yeah.
right? You've got the languaging that you're working on. That's part of your ceremony building. You're deepening your relationship and your trust with your spouse, which is part of, I mean, it's all there.
Yeah. And then I tried, as the move has been happening, I would try to make ritual in the space. So if I was clearing out an area before I started, I would say, how can I make this ritual? So that I'm not just like, all right, what's got to go? What's goodwill? What's trash? What are we getting?
How in the world did I get so clogged down with stuff? Let's shame ourselves for a while. While
None
we're
of
at
that.
it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, how can I start this with ritual? So setting an intention, maybe lighting a candle, clearing the space, either putting on music that I love or music that's calming, and then just saying an intention or bringing in appreciation of things I've had. What do we want to bring with us? And then closing it. So it's not just a task. You know what I mean?
Yeah, acknowledging. So I've been trying to do that. We haven't like started packing, but
Yeah.
walking around the apartment and just thinking, look at everything
know
that
that feeling.
brought us, here. Like I started a business in this apartment. I mean, we adopted a dog in this apartment. Like there's so many good things. I don't want to be like, man, I can't wait to get out of here because I can't wait to get out.
Yeah.
But I want it to acknowledge those things because it has been an amazing stepping stone for us.
For
so
sure.
kind of like a talking into the space,
Yeah, for sure.
making it light and feel good.
We talked last time to Carolyn Reveal, the cancer doula.
Oh, I don't know her.
Yeah.
I'd love to learn about it.
Yeah. So she does that walk with people. So we were talking a lot about how you can find meaning in that hard process, which is ceremony.
For sure.
For sure. Having done enough ceremony in my life to know that even really hard things can be beautiful. When my dad got his diagnosis, and I was like, well, here we go. This is it. Clearly he's going to die. It might take a year, it might take 2 years, it might take 2 months, we don't know.
Yeah.
But I was like, I will be fudged
That's good.
Oh.
if this is just going to be a physical process. I will find some ways to make this more than just a physical process. And that intention sending at the front of that made all the difference.
I bet it did.
Oh my God, I can't even, it was so profound.
Well, and you talked about, and not the episode before last, where he was really big on not putting everything out there so that he had to talk with you. So that really, I'm sure, helped you because you had to go through it by yourself. Like, it's not like you got to sit and talk with him about it. So, and you couldn't tell anybody. So working through that in a way that it was like, I have to make this
Meaningful.
so that I can go through this and get through this. Because if not, like, I feel like you would have created resentment and you've been mad at him, like, why can't we talk about this? Doing exactly what he doesn't want you to do.
For real. So ceremony is really helpful for so many reasons. You're right, I hadn't even thought of that before.
Yeah.
If I hadn't set that intention up front, it would not have been.
It would not have been as easy to be like,
I
okay,
don't
we
know if I
don't
would
have to
have
talk
been
about it.
capable of doing it.
Because you would have had to get it out somehow. It'd been like,
Don't you think life is so hard? Like, life is so hard as it is.
Yeah.
And so if we don't give ourselves permission to say, I'm going to honor this, the shit and the good and everything in between,
Yes.
then you're kind of just like succumbing to the hardship rather than
It's very
letting
easy
it
to slip
succumb
into
to you,
martyrdom.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that dogged sort of. There's a very Christian pathos that I find I grew up with, which is like this world is a veil of tears. I mean, how many times do I hear that? This world is a veil of tears, but we're storing up our blessings on the other side. Your golden slippers are waiting for you on the other side. I'm sorry this world is so hard. I really I choose to believe more that heaven is right here.
Yeah,
It's
I'm with
right
you.
here.
I'm with you.
I feel
And
it
heaven is what you make it.
all of the time, and you get to choose more than we think we do.
So I want to make sure that we put you out there. So we know that you said that you are transitioning to a life cycle celebrant.
Yes, I'm a certified life cycle celebrant.
So a way to, if you're not getting boxes from Candace, you can contact her because she's going to be in France, moving in how many days now?
Less than 3 weeks.
Less than 3 weeks.
Frolicking on a beach for a short time.
Yes. With a rosé.
With a rosé.
Okay. Here's what I would say, like a way I'm taking a sabbatical for an unknown period of time. I'm just gonna trust my divinity, my divine guidance, my inner guidance system to see when it feels right to come back online.
You're not actually taking a break though. You're gonna be momming.
You're taking a break from this business.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
putting all your time into
living ceremony rather than promoting ceremony.
That's exactly it. And how am I setting my family and my children up for a rooted foundation in a new place? But then when I come back online, who knows what will have happened in that period? However, maybe it's 2 months, maybe it's a year. I don't know.
Yeah,
and it's fine. But I do know a direction, at least that one that I am moving in is, what does it mean to have a celebrant? Celebrant is someone that designs a ceremony for a person as opposed to a community. So if you were like, hey, Candace, Michael and I are moving, can you help us create a moving ceremony? And so then I would create that just for you. It would be a custom.
Renewal of vows.
Yes.
Or my mom's going through, I don't know why I was going to say tuberculosis. I don't even know if people still have that anymore, but like, I don't know, some illness or whatever. And you're like, can you help us?
I thought you were like,
dying of consumption.
I was like, wait, is she really going through tuberculosis?
No.
Okay.
But somebody I know is going through this hard thing. Could you help them? Whatever. And so it would be working with people to create a crafted ceremony just for them, with them.
And that could be virtual.
Absolutely.
At the very least, we will feel like our lives are richer knowing that you're doing what you're doing.
Thank
and
you.
We're definitely going to be thinking of you and your little family on your new adventure. For sure.
Thank you. And then I just grab them.
Well, okay. Thanks so much for being on our show today. We also want to say that this may be our last episode recorded in this space. We have officially taken on a producer working with another company to make this podcast real. So we've been saying it for ever, but we are for real about it. So stay along with us to not only see our next guest and what's coming with us, and possibly Candace. We may have to virtually bring her on the show now that we're going to be podcast, but to also see where we go next. And it's not Monday. Happy Wednesday.
Bye, friends. Happy solstice.